Some days it just comes real easy, some days it's really hard, some days I can't find a shoe and I'm really scratching away, and some days it's just right there. First thing I look at, and today that's one of those days. I just saw these guys like, yeah, that's the shoe for today, we're done, I don't need to look any further. It's a great looking shoe. I would put it above the Ben & Jerry's, I would put it above the Grateful Dead sneakers as well. I know they are iconic shoes, I know they go for 4 figures plus at resale and stuff like that, but as far as design, as far as coolness, as far as being true to the SB Dunk line, these guys are absolutely clean in my opinion, and I'm going to really enjoy bringing them to you today. But also I have a big question about the lineage of the Dunk line. Dunks, SB Dunks, SB Dunk Pro, where do those three sit in that sort of lineage of Nike shoes? And we're going to get into that, and we're going to get into the details on this shoe, and there are a surprisingly large number of those details in today's video. So without further ado, let's take a look at the upcoming release of the Nike SB Dunk Pro Denim. This is the Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel, Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel des. Mainichi Absolute no de, Mainichi Mite Kudasai. And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today what we're looking at is an upcoming release of the Nike SB Dunk Low Pro Denims. And like I said at the top of this video, I'm curious as to whether or not I've got this right about where the sneakers come in that sort of history of Nike sneakers. And also I'm looking forward to bringing you guys the details on these guys, because there are a lot of details on this shoe. It's a denim shoe, obviously big news. But as far as the actual smaller details on it, very, very cool. And speaking of denim shoes, I don't know if I'll be able to find this or not, but there's hopefully I can put it on the green screen behind me here. There's a really cool denim Air Force One that the Atmos brand here in Tokyo, Japan tied up with the Nike line. And it was just very similar to these guys in that sort of construction, the color of it and things like that. But even then, these guys have more details and more cool little hits on them than those Atmos Air Force Ones. So like I said, I think it's a really clean shoe. I really put it up there very highly. I'm not a huge fan of gimmicky shoes, so even though the Grateful Dead 3 colorways and the Ben & Jerry's were really big shoes for a lot of people out there, I prefer my shoes to be a bit simpler than that. I like little subtle sort of colorways. I like little sort of tie-ups with small brands like the Strange Love skateboard guys. Those are a beautiful shoe. Very happy to hear that these guys right here, these 7-Eleven Dunks, have actually been cancelled. I thought that was a stupid idea to do a tie-up between 7-Eleven and what is a sort of, I don't know, it's a rough kind of edgy kind of brand, the SB brand, and 7-Eleven is a big conglomerate, billionaire, billion-dollar business. So tying those two together never really jived for me. So very happy to see they've cancelled that. And then a shoe like this today. This is my kind of shoe. It's got some cool details on it. It's got a really great story to it. The actual sort of narrative or the design or the aesthetic or whatever you want to say for the shoe is great. But it's simple. It's not overly complicated, and I like that in my shoes. So anyway, question number 1 that I was asking you guys, please let me know. As far as I know, I think I'm right in saying, even though I am old enough to maybe even remember this, but I think the Dunk line started in 1985, and it was just the Nike Dunk Lows or Nike Dunk Highs, and it was just a simple dunk shoe. And then in 2002, as far as I know, that was when SB Dunks kicked in. But what we'll do is we'll look at today's shoe, and hopefully what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to point it at, and I don't know if it'll be the medial or the lateral side, but I'm definitely going to be sticking my thumb in the quarter line right here. And what you can see in the quarter line of these guys is that it wraps up onto the lacing system a bit like a Jordan 1 would do, low or high or mid. So the way that kind of comes up out of the quarter line, out of the mid foot of the shoe, the midsole of the shoe, and up into the lacing system. That's what a pro is to me. Anything that doesn't do that, it sort of stops short of the lacing system, and then the lacing system goes over the quarter line. That's an SB Dunk or just a straight up dunk. And as far as I know, this is what I've been able to work out, and I have not been able to find an actual good site that sort of lists this up. 1985 Dunks, 2002 SB Dunks, 2011 SB Dunk Low Pro. Okay, that's what I think I've got right. But that pro side of it is the bit that I'm kind of confused by, because it's just not any, I mean, seriously, I looked at something like 5 or 6 different sites, the history of the Dunk line at Nike, and none of them really detailed that pro part of it. And I'm pretty sure it was the pro part that was when they started putting that kind of the quarter line coming up onto the lacing system instead of stopping at the lacing system and then the lacing system going around. Maybe I'll be able to put up, you know what I'll put up? Put up the university reds. They dropped recently, and that's a Dunk Low, not SB Dunk Low and not SB Dunk Low Pro. And you can see the quarter line on there, it stops short of the lacing system. Whereas if we come back to today's shoe, you can see it wraps up onto the lacing system. So, and as far as I know, like I said, that's the difference between an SB Dunk and an SB Dunk Pro or Low Pro. But please let me know in the comments down below if I've got that right or wrong. I'd love to know, because I'd like that kind of details. I like learning that kind of stuff at the channel. And speaking about learning stuff, hopefully you're about to learn stuff when we look at this shoe and look at the details on there. I think I counted something like 4 specific unique details to this shoe that I think are absolutely cool. So without further ado, let's get into it. You know, it's Nike. Let's start with the swoosh. If we look at the swoosh on the, it doesn't matter which side, the lateral or the medial side, it looks great, nice looking swoosh from afar, but when you zoom in on it, it's actually 6 consecutive lines of stitching that run in that swoosh pattern. You can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and see what I'm talking about there. And I think that's very, very cool, especially when it's meant to be a denim shoe, and the stitching on denim jeans, for example, is very sort of exaggerated, so it's just to hold, you know, that tough material together. And then using that to do the swoosh on the side of these guys was a very, very cool feature. I think it looks good. You might disagree, let me know in the comments down below. But hopefully what I've done is actually done the lateral side, because then we can stay a bit lower than the swoosh on the lateral side. And you see 3 kind of segments of circles running along the edge of the midsole, front to back on there. And it's that stitching again that comes up at the heel, and it comes up across 2 other parts towards the front of the shoe. But then if we switch that around and come to the medial, you can see the swoosh on the medial side is very much the same as the swoosh on the lateral side, but it only has 1 of those little moon kind of crescents that comes up. I think it's towards the front of the shoe in the quarter line, if I remember rightly. And so that's the difference between the lateral and the medial sides on the shoe. But again, I think it's very cool. So it's an unusual design feature for Dunk lows. And then I think what I'll go next to is, it's closer to go to the toe box, but I'd rather go up to the tongue, because on the tongue branding up there, you've got this kind of lightning swoosh, lightning strike that runs through the branding up on there in the same kind of threading and the same kind of needlework, the stitching that you see with the swoosh, and those sort of crescents that come up on the out of the midsole. So you've got that again on the branding up there. And staying with that tongue, first and foremost, is a dark tongue, and then the branding panel itself is in that lighter denim colorway, and then on top of that you've got the branding stitched in there in white. Very nice gradient of colors. But those 3 gradients of colors are important in the shoe, because if we go back to looking at the full shoe, you can see it's basically a 2-tone shoe, light at the front, dark in the middle, and then just that hit of light at the back on the branding panel. And throughout that, the stitching gives it that 3rd sort of color. And the thing that I was talking about with the toe box, if we go look at the toe box now, it's a really cool feature. Maybe people haven't picked up on it yet, and you can see it very close up here, is that the ventilation holes on there aren't circular punches as you'd normally get on Dunk Lows. What you've got actually is either, and I don't know which, it's either little crosses or little plus signs, maybe you could call it little plus signs, or stars. I don't know which, but either way they're not circles. And you can see from what we're showing you on the green screen right now, the really high quality of that toe box and that extra little bit of detailing on there. So so all in all, like looking at the extra bits of detailing, that's the main features, the stitching, especially for the swoosh, and then also those little crescents that come up out of the midsole, the stitching again up there on the tongue, but also then those ventilation holes on the toe box. Really big details on the shoe. Going back to look at the colorway itself of the shoe, one of the most important elements of it in my mind that keeps the balance together is that the lining of this guy is very much a light lining, and it goes well with the toe box and the heel branding, but the darker sort of midfoot section of the shoe, it really balances well against those two there. I think that's a really cool decision as far as the colors go, and that's important to me because the whole shoe balances well, and I'm super critical of when brands put gum soles on shoes. Usually I don't like it, but in the case of these guys, it's an absolute 10 out of 10, A+. Yes, as far as I'm concerned, putting a gum sole on this shoe is a massive yes, basically because usually jeans come in one of these 2 colors, the darker blue or the lighter blue, and then on the back, just about every pair of jeans in the world would have a leather branding patch on the back of the jeans in that kind of gum sole tan colorway. So putting a gum sole on the bottom of these shoes, it really fits the narrative of denim as far as I'm concerned. So it's a very big yes for me. And that in the middle of that outsole as well, I think I'm right in saying there's a big blue panel in the middle as well. This is a great sort of balance of the colour as well, and it keeps that narrative going. And then if we come back to the lateral side, looking at the full shoe, the midsole in white there as well just adds another sort of hint of colour. It's just a really nice shoe, and I'm not kidding when I say I would prefer this to the Ben & Jerry's and to the Grateful Dead's. Of course, if I had the Grateful Dead's or the Ben & Jerry's, then I could sell them and buy like 5 pairs of these. So I'm not saying don't send me the Grateful Dead's or the Ben & Jerry's if that's what you're thinking about. But just as far as I'm concerned, just in pure like, we're ranking how much I like a shoe, how I like how it looks. And I prefer how this looks to the, like I say, the Ben & Jerry's, the 7-Elevens, and the Grateful Dead's out there. So for me, great shoe, really great shoe. And hopefully as well, you can teach me something about that lineage. I think 85 for Dunks, 2002 for Dunk SB, and then SB Dunks, and then 2011 for SB Dunk Pro is what I see, but I might be wrong in that. Let me know in the comments down below. For now though, time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content. But you know what? I do this every single day, like every single day. And that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.